Hello and welcome, I'm Joshua Barnes and you're watching The World Report. Let's first look at some headlines. Donald Trump is to be sentenced in his hush money case on the 10th of January, less than 2 weeks before his inauguration. A US judge did say that the president-elect will not face jail time. Republican Mike Johnson has been re-elected as the White House Speaker following a tense vote. Trump had thrown his support behind Johnson, with this proving pivotal to his victory. The outgoing Biden administration has notified Congress of a potential $8 billion arms sale to Israel. Any deal will require approval from the House of Representatives and Senate committees. Letters have provided investigators with more information on the motive behind the recent Cybertruck explosion in Las Vegas. 37-year-old elite soldier Matthew Liversberger was found dead in the vehicle. A New York judge on Friday upheld President-elect Donald Trump's conviction in his hush money trial. His sentencing is scheduled for January the 10th, just 10 days before his January the 20th inauguration. However, the judge in the case indicated on Friday that Trump is unlikely to serve jail time. Here's the full report.
US President-elect Donald Trump is scheduled to be sentenced on 10th January. Trump was found guilty of 34 counts of falsifying business records to conceal a hush money payment his ex-fixer made to an adult film star ahead of the 2016 election. New York Supreme Court Justice Juan Merchan said Trump may appear at his sentencing in person or virtually. Trump lambasted the ruling in posts to Truth Social, calling it an illegitimate political attack and rigged charade. Trump's attorneys have fought to have the case dismissed in light of Trump's re-election in November. Judge Juan Merchan ruled that Trump must attend a court hearing on 10th January, just 10 days ahead of his 20th January inauguration, marking an unprecedented event in US history. Trump is the first US president, whether sitting or former, to be charged with or convicted of a crime. Merchan said that he is not inclined to impose a jail sentence on Trump and suggested that an unconditional discharge, which involves no custody, fine or probation, is the most viable solution. Merchan said throwing out the jury verdict would undermine the rule of law in immeasurable ways. Trump's attorneys have argued in separate cases that Trump was protected by presidential immunity while he was in office. Merchan rejected the argument, saying the president-elect would be immune from prosecution once he is sworn in as president. Trump is expected to appeal his conviction, and he may try other legal avenues in the next week to try to stop the sentencing. Bureau Report, NewsX.
We'll now head to South America for some latest news updates. Chile's President Gabriel Boric has become the first leader in the Americas to visit the South Pole after arriving at a US base there. The president said his visit to the Amundsen Scott South Pole Station reaffirmed Chile's own claim to sovereignty over part of the Antarctic. Brazil's Navy have said that it has found the body of the 13th victim from a bridge collapse last month in the country's north. 4 people still remain missing. The body, which is still to be identified, was found by drones in the depths of the Tocantins River. Honduras President Xiomara Castro's comments earlier this week threatening to stop her country's cooperation with the US military if President-elect Donald Trump follows through on promised mass deportations have generated political heat at home, even as the US government has remained silent. Venezuelan opposition candidate Edmundo González Urrutia is expected to meet Argentine President Javier Milei on Saturday on a regional tour to drum up support ahead of President Nicolas Maduro's swearing in for a third term. Venezuelan authorities have offered a reward of $100,000 for information leading to the capture of González Urrutia. Argentinian police have arrested one of the 2 men accused of supplying drugs to British singer Liam Payne before he fell to his death from his 3rd-floor hotel room in Buenos Aires. Brian Pais, who is accused of supplying cocaine to Payne, is one of 5 defendants indicted in connection with the death of the 31-year-old former One Direction pop star in October. Last year was Brazil's hottest on record, its weather agency said on Friday. This comes after a record-breaking drought and flooding in the South American country that climate experts have linked to global warming. The average temperature in 2024 was over 25 degrees Celsius. This is almost 1 degree above the 1991 to 2020 average. It was the warmest year since records began in 1961. The US State Department has quietly informed Congress of its plan to sell $8 billion in arms to Israel. The informal notification was sent to the House Foreign Affairs and Senate Foreign Relations Committees on Friday. Meanwhile, the situation in Gaza remains critical, with intense airstrikes claiming at least 150 lives over the past 2 days. Here's the full report.
The US State Department has quietly informed Congress of its intention to sell $8 billion in arms to Israel. The informal notification was sent to the House Foreign Affairs Committee and the Senate Foreign Relations Committee on Friday. Tensions over US arms sales to Israel resurfaced when Netanyahu accused the Biden administration of withholding weapons, a claim denied by a Biden envoy as unproductive and untrue. Meanwhile, in Gaza, the situation remains dire. In just 2 days, intense airstrikes have resulted in the deaths of at least 150 people, with 73 reported on Friday and 77 confirmed on Thursday.
نتحدث على 8 غارات في قطاع غزة، ونتحدث كلها لأطفال لتجمعات من المواطنين بشكل واضح. آخر هذه الغارات حدثت قبل لحظات من الآن. نتحدث على استهداف في منطقة الشمعة 3 أطفال قد استشهدوا وأكثر من 15 مصابا، 90% منهم أيضا من الأطفال. وبالتالي
Amnesty International condemned Israel's detention of Drive Hussam Abu Safia, calling it a symbol of efforts to annihilate Gaza's healthcare. As the crisis worsens, talks in Qatar will resume, with Hamas official Bassem Naim emphasizing the group's commitment to a ceasefire, Israeli withdrawal from Gaza, and the return of displaced people. Key mediators Qatar, Egypt, and the United States have been attempting to secure a lasting deal in indirect talks for months. Bureau Report, NewsX.
Let's now take a look at some news updates from across the continent of Europe. Russia has claimed its air defences intercepted 8 US-supplied ATACMS missiles, a weapon Ukraine began using last year with Washington's approval. The Russian Defence Ministry also reported downing 72 drones during the attack. The ATACMS missiles, with a range of 300 kilometres, were labelled a major escalation by Moscow. Russia has warned that further use of these missiles could provoke a hypersonic ballistic missile response targeting Kyiv. Poland barred Hungary's ambassador from the opening gala of its EU presidency. The move stems from a dispute over Hungary granting asylum to former Polish minister Romanowski. He fled Poland to avoid corruption charges. Hungary's decision has drawn criticism from Poland's new pro-European leadership. The diplomatic row overshadowed the handover of EU leadership from Hungary to Poland. Austria's efforts to form a new government hit a major roadblock today. The Liberal NEOS party has abruptly withdrawn from coalition talks, leaving the path to a stable government uncertain. This comes after the far-right Freedom Party emerged as the leading force in September's national elections, but failed to secure partners for a coalition. NEOS leader Beate Min Reisinger announced her party's withdrawal today, citing insufficient progress on proposed reforms. Sweden is sending a military ship to assist Finland in investigating the cutting of a Baltic undersea cable. Finland suspects a Russian-linked vessel may be responsible. The Eagle S, a tanker, is being inspected. It is thought to be part of Russia's shadow fleet. Sweden's Prime Minister, Ulf Kristersson, said the Swedish armed forces would help Finland uncover what happened. Oil from 2 damaged Russian tankers was detected off the coast of Sevastopol, Crimea on Friday. The Volga-Neft 212 and Volga-Neft 239 were struck by a storm last month in the Kerch Strait. One sank and the other ran aground, spilling 2,400 tonnes of mazut, a heavy fuel oil, into the sea. A small oil slick about 1.5 metres wide reached Sevastopol, according to local officials. David Lodge, the acclaimed author and critic, has died at the age of 89. He was best known for his comic campus novels Small World and Nice Work. Both were adapted for television. Lodge, a former literate professor, satirised academic life in his writing. Other notable works include Changing Places and The British Museum is Falling Down, about a student struggling to write his thesis. The investigation of the Tesla blast that took place in Las Vegas has taken a major turn. New letters found on the phone of the driver have raised several questions. He has called America an ill nation and expressed pride in his actions. Here's a detailed report.
There has been a shocking revelation in the investigation of the recent Tesla Cybertruck explosion in Las Vegas.
One letter in particular, as you can see here, this is an excerpt from that letter. He says, fellow service members, veterans, and all Americans, time to wake up. We are being led by weak and feckless leadership who only serve to enrich themselves.
A soldier who blew up the vehicle left notes saying the New Year X explosion was a stunt to serve as a wake-up call for the country's ills. Matthew Livelsberger also wrote in notes left on his phone that he needed to cleanse his mind of the brothers I've lost and relieve himself of the burden of the lives I took. According to what he wrote in one letter, he wanted to make a point by pulling a stunt with fireworks and explosives. The letters covered a range of topics including political grievances, societal problems, and both domestic and international issues, including the war in Ukraine. Investigators are still trying to determine whether Livelsberger sought to make a political point with the Tesla and the hotel bearing President-elect Donald Trump's name. But officials said Livelsberger wrote in one of the notes that the country needed to rally around the President-elect and Tesla chief executive and Trump advisor Elon Musk. Bureau Report, NewsX.
Let's now take a look at some news updates from across the Indo-Pacific region. A fire at a vegetable market in North China killed 8 people and injured 15 on Saturday. The fire erupted at the Lig Ao Inji market in Zanjiku market. As per state media reports, the injured have been sent to hospital for treatment. They are in a stable condition. Days after China announced that it is building the world's largest dam in Brahmaputra, a river, India responded with a reminder. The Ministry of External Affairs of India said it will protect the country's interest. It also said, for now, New Delhi will continue to closely monitor the latest developments. It added that necessary and appropriate action will be taken when required. China has claimed that the mega dam project across the Sangpo River would have no negative impact on India and Bangladesh. The Sangpo flows from Tibet into India and then to Bangladesh before joining the Bay of Bengal. The spokesperson of the Chinese embassy in India said the project has no negative impact on the lower reaches. Pakistan Tehreek-i-Insaf Party said it will only talk to government. For now, all doors are closed for military talks. The party's chairman, Gohar Ali Khan, revealed that his party engaged in talks with military before the November 2024 election, but he also clarified that these talks have been severed. Pakistan's High Commission in India said that it has issued visas to 94 Indian pilgrims. The Indians were given visas to participate in the 316th birth anniversary of Sant Shada Ram Sahib in Sindh. In November 2024, Pakistan issued visas to 87 Hindu pilgrims for a similar occasion. India has received the request for extradition of ousted former Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. The Indian Ministry of External Affairs has confirmed this on Friday. This development comes after Bangladesh sent a diplomatic note to India's Foreign Ministry requesting Hasina's extradition. Hasina is living in India since August the 5th. She fled Bangladesh following a massive student protest that toppled her 16-year regime. Secretary of State Antony Blinken embarks on his final overseas trip, visiting South Korea, Japan and France from January the 4th to January the 9th. This trip aims to strengthen US alliances, address regional challenges and emphasise expanded cooperation with Indo-Pacific and European partners. Here are the latest updates.
The US State Department said on Friday that the Secretary of State Antony Blinken will be on a visit to South Korea, Japan and France from January 4th to 9. This is expected to be the last overseas trip of Blinken as the Secretary of State. The US top diplomat will visit South Korea amid political turmoil in Seoul. In the latest development there, a standoff between investigators and South Korea's presidential guards and military troops prevented investigators from arresting Yoon. As per the State Department statement, Blinken will meet his counterpart Cho Tae-yul. They are expected to hold discussions on how to strengthen the South Korea-US alliance and trilateral cooperation with Japan. According to Seoul's foreign ministry, the talks will focus on regional challenges, including North Korea, as well as global issues. Both sides aim to reinforce their vital cooperation, grounded in shared values. In Tokyo, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken will assess the significant progress in the US-Japan alliance, highlighted by the recent US approval of $3.64 billion in medium-range missiles, equipment, and training. In France, Blinken will wrap up his trip in Paris in meetings with French officials to discuss challenges in the Middle East amid ongoing efforts to secure a ceasefire in Gaza. He will also discuss about the recent development in Europe, particularly in context of Ukraine. With this trip, Blinken intends to highlight the expansion of US cooperation with both Indo-Pacific nations and European allies as part of the Biden administration's broader strategy. Bureau Report, NewsX.
We will now take a look at some news updates from across the world of business. The US Department of Justice asked the Supreme Court to reject Trump's request. The law requires ByteDance to sell TikTok's US assets or face a ban by January the 19th. Trump requested more time after his January the 20th inauguration. He proposed a political solution. The court will hear arguments on January the 10th. TikTok is yet to comment. US manufacturing showed signs of recovery in December, with production and new orders rising. The ISM Purchasing Managers Index reached a 9-month high, but the outlook remains uncertain due to potential tariff hikes. Despite the improvement, none of the 6 largest manufacturing sectors grew, and survey comments highlighted concerns like volume decreases and significant slowdown. Microsoft plans to invest approximately $80 billion in fiscal 2025 to develop data centers for training AI models and supporting AI and cloud applications. This investment comes amid a surge in AI demand since OpenAI's 2022 ChatGPT launch. The focus is on expanding AI infrastructure and data center networks to meet growing computing power needs. Nisha Desai, an American-Asian businesswoman, has filed a lawsuit against PayPal alleging racial discrimination. She claims that the company's $535 million investment program, which limits applications to Black and Hispanic applicants, cost her millions of dollars. The lawsuit, filed by Desai and her New York-based firm Andav Capital, is part of a larger movement among some conservatives to curtail diversity, equality and inclusion initiatives in corporate America. The US Surgeon General Vivek Murthy called for cancer warnings on the labels of alcoholic drinks. Consequently, shares of European and American spirit makers and brewers fell on Friday. He said in an advisory that the consumption of alcoholic drinks increases the risk of developing breast, colon, liver and other cancers. For certain cancers, evidence shows that the risk of developing cancer may begin to increase around 1 or more drinks per day. Let's head to North America for some more latest news updates. President Biden blocked the $14 billion takeover of US steel by Nippon Steel of Japan. It is because the sale posed a threat to national security. Biden emphasized that he was acting to protect national security. Biden's move could roil relations with Japan, a close ally of the United States and one of America's largest sources of foreign investment. The decision came after a federal committee opted not to make a formal recommendation. This was about whether or not the takeover should be allowed to proceed. Mourners are to begin paying their respects to Jimmy Carter. This kicks off a carefully choreographed 6-day farewell for America's longest-lived president. Carter's state funeral officially began with Secret Service agents carrying his casket to a hearse for a tour through plains. The motorcade bearing his remains is to pause at Carter's family farm. In the meanwhile, a farm bell rings 39 times in honour of America's 39th president. Carter's remains will be flown on Tuesday morning from a military base in Georgia to Joint Base Andrews. Stocks finished higher as investors reversed a recent round of losses on Wall Street. This comes amid a broader pullback on global stocks. Tesla shares were on the rebound after the carmaker posted record China sales. Manufacturing activity hit the highest level in 9 months over December. The ISM's reading of 49.3 topped Street forecasts. However, it still came in under 50-point mark that separates growth from contraction. President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden will visit New Orleans on Monday. Their visit includes meeting the family members of victims. They will also meet officials on the ground following the city's New Year's Day attack. The visit comes after 14 people were killed after a man rammed a truck into pedestrians on Bourbon Street. On the day of the attack, Biden offered condolences to the victims' families in a national address. Vogue editor Dame Anna Wintour, U2 frontman Bono and billionaire George Soros will receive America's highest civilian honour from President Joe Biden. The Presidential Medal of Freedom will be awarded to 19 people this year. The award recipients span cultural icons, politicians and campaigners. According to the White House, they have been chosen for their extraordinary contribution to the country and the world. Biden will present the medals at the White House on Saturday. That is all we have time for. We'll be back with more international news updates.